Buenos dias. Welcome to Casa Cano, Coffee and Pan Dulce. We are going to have a great show this morning, and it wouldn't be the same without our fantastic host, the master of the house of ill dispute, Mr. Christian Cano. Please.
Wow, that's actually really low today. I'm. There you go. You want to do the grito, Jeff?
The what?
The grito?
Yeah!
Good. Hey, that's actually pretty good. I'm impressed. That you will wake up half of Mexico. So I just.
And all of our viewers.
Exactly.
Oh yeah, I see a 4.3 earthquake. Just rumbled through, yeah.
Welcome to Coffee and Ponduce, everyone. I'm Christian Cano. Today is October the 9th. Wow.
John Lennon's birthday.
And it is the first day that I remember, I think we had yesterday too, but it's the first day that I remember that felt like fall.
Yeah.
It is gorgeous and beautiful out there, so I'm sure you'll be seeing a lot of people walking in your neighborhoods. Right. And oh, it's just gorgeous. Well, welcome to Coffee and Ponduce. I'm Christian Cano. I want to thank everyone for joining us on Facebook Live, but also those who join us later on YouTube and Facebook as well. I'm excited to say that 2 weeks ago we had Stony Rushings on, and we had almost 1,500 viewers as of right now.
Stoney's a rock star.
Wow.
Yeah, it's interesting. You know, people like to watch us later, and I was looking at those numbers this morning. And I was like, oh wow. And the only reason I'm saying that is because yesterday I attended the Moms Med Action meeting, the monthly meeting in Charlotte, and they have a Union County chapter that has started, and we had talked about possibly Stoney getting in contact or them contacting each other to talk about the SMART program because he owns a gun training, and they are very receptive to reaching out and maybe having him pass out some of these at at one of his places. So that was very interesting. So let's turn the electronics off and we will start. Alexa, stop. All right, Ruth is with her grandbaby again today, so we want to say, Ruth, we miss you once again. Hopefully she'll be back with us next week. So we're going to go around, introduce yourself and your button, give me time to share, and then we'll salute to Coffee and Ponduce, and we'll talk about today's Ponduce. Is that good? All right, we'll start from our right, because you're always right.
Good morning, I'm Barbara Bacon. I'm a healthcare advocate here in Charlotte, and I forgot to put on my Medicare for All button this morning.
Yay.
But I have it.
And she is always right. My name is Tara Long. I'm candidate for County Commission at Large. Today, Cano made a whole show just for me. I'm so grateful for that. So I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to focus on the National Financial Literacy Campaign that my friends Nira and Megan are spearheading. And basically, because we don't have systems in place to make it comfortable to live in the United States without pre-planning, you need to pre-plan your future, and they help you get there.
Excellent.
I'm Jeff Scott, man about town, the usual suspect in a fracas that we're going to have this morning.
Yes, yes. So we'll talk about what today is, and
Pardon me.
Once again, everyone, welcome. Let's go ahead and salute to Coffee and Ponduce. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, neighbors. Cha-ching, cha-ching. And
click.
we want to shout out to our Coffee and Ponduce sponsor, Manola's Bakery. Manola's Bakery is on Central Avenue. They had a grand opening last week.
Wow.
And it's beautiful. They've redone it. There's now a place for meetings. If any groups, Medicare for All wants to have a meeting there, or any groups want to have meetings, they have like a little area for meetings. Unfortunately, we don't have his Ponduce here today. But we do have American donuts. So please help yourself, and we also have munchkins, which I love. So help yourself to all kinds of donuts. So you'll have to take your baby some munchkins instead of a concha.
Absolutely.
So when I was getting those donuts this morning, there was tons of kids. Yeah, there was tons of kids there, and they were ordering munchkins, so the donut holes.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh man, I used to love those. Well, anyway, I still like them. So please help yourself. Jeff, I don't know if you're hungry.
Oh, no, I'm not.
Oh, okay.
Right now. Thanks you.
So today we are going to be talking about a very important topic that has been in the news for the last couple of weeks, and specifically since Tara, I'll have to give you Tara credit, mainly Tara and a lot of her followers and the Tara team, so to speak. They have really highlighted the efforts of the Mecklenburg County not board of elections, the tax collectors that were going to join forces with MEDIC, which is a quasi-government contractor, so to speak, and they are going to start garnishing wages. They're going to start acting as a bill collector for people who have outstanding balances, medical balances from ambulance services. And this probably would never have gotten to everyone's attention had your group and your followers and other people brought it to people's attention after the article came out in the Charlotte Observer, I believe, and we spoke at the Board of Elections, and they had made a decision to hold on and get more information. But I will say this is another example of when you get involved in government and people, you can put a stop to something that needs to be looked at or not right, because it probably would have just sailed through.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So that is what we're going to talk about, but let's let you give us a very brief, like 60 seconds on what's going on, and then we will go around the table and maybe everyone can tell us where they stand on that issue.
Sure,
Okay.
absolutely. So I'm Medicare for All. I've always said that. And Michael Merenstein sent me an article about how the Board of County Commissioners were considering allowing wage garnishments if you cannot pay for your medic bill. And I said, whoa, this is 911. We do not consider payment for fire or police. Why are they going to start garnishing wages for the use of medic? And so Michael and I talked about it, and I said, well, I know the right people to come fight this fight. And if you did not see Christian Cano's speech, you should. He was fantastic. We organized. We went to the Board of County Commissioners. We said, no, this is not good policy. Wage garnishments deterring people to call 911 is not okay. And we all went down there. It was a collective group. I believe we had about 15 people there. And we did, in fact, get the government to stop and think about their policy before implementing them. Right now, where it stands is they're stopping and they're thinking about it. We have not stopped wage garnishments. So what that means, as an audience, we have to stay on them and tell them that this is not okay until they make a final decision. When you hear the word, this has been suspended, that does not mean that we as advocates stop fighting. That means we work harder and we build more people and we build more coalition and we talk about this. Let people know that this is something that your government has control over and that they are considering allowing. So that's my 60 seconds.
Sure. So what really bothers me about this, and then, well, let's go around and tell us if you know about this or whatever. We'll start with you, Barb. How do you feel about this? Or
Totally against it.
okay, and why?
In my pharmaceutical career, part of my job at the first larger company that I worked for, I knew a lot about Medicare, a lot about Medicaid, and this is always an issue, no matter where I've been.
Sure.
It's the pricing differences.
Sure.
Different patients get charged different prices. If you don't have insurance, they can charge you whatever they want to charge you, which is totally wrong. And I was an advocate for patients that did not have the greatest insurance or whatever, and I did battle with a lot of ambulance companies. So I am totally against this, and I really am upset with our county commissioners, because why should our tax dollars pay for that?
Exactly.
It's just, they need to rethink this.
Okay.
Right.
You want to add anything to that? Or
I mean, I will just say, one of the things that we need to look at is the Board of County Commissioners pay 17% to Medic, and they are actually decreasing. They decreased the funding from 12 million to 10 million.
And the reason?
They did. I don't know the reason. I'm going to address this. These are my speaking points for Tuesday, but they decreased the funding, and so now Medic wants the funding back. I absolutely support the Board of County Commissioners putting Medic first. The people that have not paid is because they simply can't afford it. The people, the 87 or 80 some percent that have paid, they can't afford it.
Mhm.
So what they're doing is they're deterring poor people from using 911. The second thing is that Medic is not, the price is not regulated. So it's we need to look at policies that could regulate the healthcare cost.
Good luck.
Well, I think, and I'd be interested to hear, Jeff, because I'm not sure how much you know about this or if you've been looking into it, but I'd be interested to find out, hear what people say who are fiscally conservative, because this is well, first of all, the answer to this is Medicare for all.
Sure, absolutely.
If we
And
had
you said that elegantly.
if we had Medicare for all, so many issues that local governments have to deal with, and this is one of those issues, would be taken away from them, so we could focus on other things like parks, greenways. If you're the county, if you're the city, potholes, police pay, teacher pay, county and so forth. So that's the first thing. The second thing is Medic is a private company that has a contract with the county, and so even though they tell people they are a not-for-profit, they give the impression they're a non-profit. There's a difference.
Right.
Not-for-profit is like Blue Cross Blue Shield. Non-profit is like American Red Cross. Okay? So they still pay their executives and their board whatever amount of money they want to pay them. So in my view, how you fix this is you do what other municipalities are doing until we get Medicare for all, is you eliminate the Medic, the contract, and you absorb ambulance services into the fire department, and it becomes a necessity, just like fire, police, ambulance. So that way, the taxpayer, who we're already paying, doesn't have to worry when they dial 911, is that $1,400 for a ride? Or if you have Medicare, it's $325. If you have Medicaid, it's $125. If you have Blue Cross Blue Shield, it's negotiated to $400 and something. So there's no question, as you mentioned, when you're dialing 911, you're thinking
You're sick.
Yeah, you're not thinking, oh my God. But there are people who, and I think they do now. I know there are people who may have been injured and said, no, don't call me an ambulance, it's too expensive.
Right.
Just take me to
Absolutely.
and that could be life or death. So that's one way I think that we can get rid of this is Medicare for all, which is I'm for. But in the short term, the county commission can get rid of this because there's a lot of overhead when you deal with a contractor. You have to pay administrative costs. You have to pay the people who are, and then you absorb it into the fire department, and the fire department becomes part of EMS. So that's how I think you can take care of this. So tell me what you think, Jeff.
Well, there's a ton of issues here. First, I do think people should pay their bills. And I am actually a victim of this. Back in the early '90s, I had a motorcycle accident, and because I could pay. Yeah.
I just can't imagine you.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we learned so much about you.
I wasn't part of a biker gang. Actually, I had a BMW, and we'd sort of go antiquing
one of the
stuff
crotch
like that.
rockets.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
We'd go into restaurants and send food back. So that's how tough we were.
Yeah.
But
all right.
but I got clipped and fell, and paramedics came and took me away, and I remember being inside the wagon looking up, going, wow, this is really nice, and the guy joking with me very seriously, well, wait till you see our bill.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, and so everybody knows what's going on here. Everybody knows the problem in general with surprise medical billing.
Yeah.
So we know this, and it makes me feel like not only there's a couple things about if you're sick and you're going to go to the emergency room, you know that you're going to get clipped. Right, and if you're feeling very financially vulnerable, or your health is vulnerable, that is a very bad position to be in. Just as a side point, the tapering of opioids and the tapering of pain management also means that there's sort of a triple whammy when you go in.
Mm-hmm.
Not only is your health vulnerable and your finances are vulnerable to the predators who are working in the hospital, but the fact that your pain might not be managed adequately is also like a triple threat. So I have a lot of hostility toward the medical system and hospitals. So having said that, I'm not opposed to garnishment of wages. I don't know how the city got into this position because I haven't done the research on it. I don't like the, again, I don't like the surprise medical billing, but I'm not opposed to garnishment of wages.
I did some research, and especially after I heard people speak last Tuesday, this is kind of how it occurred. In the state of North Carolina is one of the states, like Texas, that has had a history of being against garnishing wages. It is just the libertarian part of North Carolina that they've traditionally been against. It's really hard to garnish someone's wages. You have to go to civil court, the judge has to, and so they really try their best to keep that from happening. In Texas, you can't even garnish wages, you know, it's at all. But in North Carolina, you can. But traditionally, the culture here has been do everything we can against it, for one exception, and that's for taxes. And in the state of North Carolina, for taxes. And so in the state of North Carolina, local tax, if you have the authority to collect taxes, which the county and the state and the city do, they have a tax collection part of their tax department that can go after people for taxes. That's the exception. So the only people that can do that without a judge's thing is the county tax collector. Because this is a privately held company, they would have to go after someone's wages like any other debt collector. It's an unsecured loan, like a credit card. They would have to file a civil suit. They'd have to go. The judge would have to, and it takes a long time for that to happen. Even if they do it happen, medical expenses are exempt from that. So because they can't do it, in my view, they decided to go around, have the county become their tax collector, and there is a statute in the North Carolina General Assembly that was passed 5 years ago that was championed by the ambulance people that allows them to transfer that debt from them, which is a personal, to the county.
If you're contract.
If you're contract. Generally, counties do not agree with that because they're going around it. This is how they decided to do it. So in actuality, what they're trying to do is they're trying to circumvent what they can't do by trying to go in there and do it. Two things to me is a problem with that. First of all, do it the right way. If they had done it the right way and if they had gone off these people and there had been a lien or something put on those people, then I think maybe they can tell the county, hey, listen, we've gone through the correct process or whatever the case, and that's the case. Even in their presentation on last Tuesday, they said their steps were call person 4 times. The person doesn't have to answer 4 times. They just have to make a call, hang up, and that's their 4 attempt.
Yeah.
They don't have to physically, that's what they're saying. And then they're saying they'll give it to the county. If the county can't collect the money and garnish the wages, which means the person's either going to have a job or not have a job or whatever they force the person, then it goes back to them and then they will give it to a collection agency. That model makes no sense. They should give it to a collections agency first, and then if they exhaust all avenues, then go to the county tax collector, even if we agreed with that. So you have to take a look at what they're trying to do, and they're trying to circumvent what you would normally do.
Well, there's no need for them to go to a collection agency first. You do have to take steps. If a normal company that's got billing is gonna call you, they're gonna email you.
What they said is, what they have, the people they're going after are people that the bill is outstanding more than 120 days, that they have tried to contact 4 times. They don't, and that's all. That's all they're saying before they give it to the tax collector.
Right.
And so they're not. That's really all they're saying. So and I do appreciate Commissioner Dunlap what he said, because he, even though I don't always agree with what he says, what he said is if someone can't pay the $1,500. And you call them 4 times, they're not going to answer the phone because they can't. What are they going to tell you? I'm sorry, I told you 4 times I can't pay this.
Yeah, you're exactly right.
So that's really there's just so many issues, but I think more importantly, I think there's a difference between who can't pay and who won't pay.
Right.
And if there's a person who actually won't pay, then they should go through the collection agency part. They should go to civil court and they will file a judgment against that individual. And that's a person who won't pay. If they can't pay, the court's not going to judge against them.
Won't pay and can afford it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
So here's my thing about that is there is a punishment in place for people who won't pay, and that's called hurting your credit.
Yes. Yeah.
And if you've ever tried to rent an apartment or buy a house or get a job or get
car
insurance,
get home insurance.
everything is tied to your credit. So for me, that's deterrent enough that I am going to do whatever I can to pay that bill. I don't need collections coming after people. So I want to give the audience an idea of why I'm so terrified on this. Okay. If I have somebody who's making $7 an hour, he may or she may bring in $1,200 a month before taxes. After taxes, that's $700 a month. Okay, Medic can charge $1,200 for an ambulance ride. So that's $720, which quite honestly is not enough to live in Charlotte to begin with. You need $3,000 a month to afford Charlotte, is going to be taken away. Okay, and that is really a horrible situation. We're deterring people from working. Okay, and we need people to work $7 an hour jobs. You know, obviously we need $15 an hour, but this is the bad policy that we have, the $7 an hour. So I'm mortified that we're going to be attacking, when we do this, our very hardworking, lower class people. One of the things that I do want to bring up is the Board of County Commissioners, they get $1.9 billion from regular taxes that come in through us. Christian owns his home, he pays taxes. That money is stable. Now the Board of County Commissioners, they allocate based on priorities. So that money's going to come in no matter what. I don't understand why the Board of County Commissioners does not see this as a major priority for us. Okay? So what Medic is asking for is $2.2 million, a very small amount compared to $1.9 billion budget. And the Board of County Commissioners previously has paid this in 2016. And they have been taking away money from Medic. In 2016, they paid $12 million to finance Medic. In 2017, they paid $10 million to finance Medic. So they are dropping the wages, and this is Medic saying, hey, look, we're struggling. You cut our wages, we're struggling. Now we need help. Medic came back at the Board of County Commissioners and said, there are 3 things that we can do. The first thing we can do is we can increase Medic rates. So instead of paying $1,200 per ambulance ride, you can pay $1,500, and that'll compensate for the poor.
But that's only gonna impact the people who don't have insurance. Because the insurance is negotiated, Medicare is negotiated, Medicaid. It's contracted. So the only way they can make up that money is for people who don't have insurance.
Okay.
And they can't pay anyway, so what's the point?
Well, it does impact me because I pay, my deductible is like $7,000 plus, and so I would have to pay the full amount, and I do pay the full amount. The second thing that they said was they can get the money from the Board of County Commissioners. Yes, Board of County Commissioners, you need to pay Medic to keep our people safe and prioritize health care. Or they can do wage garnishments. Okay, and again, we've talked about how wage garnishment is going to impact the poor.
We have a couple people watching, several people watching. Thank you. Ruth, of course, is watching from home. Lynn, hello, Lynn. Thank you. Tony Foreman, our brother Tony Foreman. Judith, Elise Brown has joined us as well. Thank you, everyone who's joined us. We're talking about the Medic. But, you know, I understand what you're saying, but it seems like now that we know how the ambulance service runs in this county, I think most people who have come, because most people who live in this area come from other areas, we can look at the other areas that have dealt with this issue, and I say this all the time. Charlotte and Mecklenburg never has to reinvent the wheel. All we have to do is look at other cities, and say, how are you dealing with this? And until we get Medicare for all, a lot of, especially in California, I looked it up, Santa Monica, a lot of these places that they're leading the edge. They're getting rid of these contract agreements with EMS services, and they're absorbing New York City is like this. They're absorbing it into their fire department. So basically, the taxpayer is just paying for emergencies. If you have a car wreck on 485, the emergency comes to get you to save your life. That's paid for by the taxpayer. However, if you have a scheduled operation at your doctor's office, you can schedule EMS and you pay for it.
Yeah.
Because it's not an emergency. And that they're switching to that model. If we had that model here, the only people that we would be going after would be the people who didn't really need the ambulance. They scheduled it in advance. So, you know, if they're whatever. And those are the people that we would be going after, because that is something that was non-emergency related. But emergencies, if you get shot out here and someone, oh my God, call 911. You're not calling them, someone else is, it's an emergency. If you have insurance or whatever. That seems to me how you would solve this issue. I believe we need to pay this bill. Taxpayers, we need to pay this bill. But I think we have to fix the problem so we don't have to continue to do this.
So one of the things that other counties do is exactly copy police and medic.
Yeah.
So police and fire. So
They're part of that.
Yeah, well, police and fire are completely tax funded.
Yeah, they're called necessities. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So medic can be a necessity as well, and they can be fully funded.
Yes.
Now, it is expensive, and this would be something that the county would have to work towards long term. But think about it. As property taxes rise, as people move here, the income to the Board of County Commissioners is going to increase. So if people prioritize this plan, medic could be just like fire and police and county funded, and then we wouldn't have to worry about this. This is an obsolete fact. Like, other counties do this already.
And why don't we?
Because
it's just been
they
set
have
up
not made they have not made this issue a priority.
Well, I think that seems to be kind of the trend. That seems to be the thing in North. There was a time in North Carolina which that they were trying to contract a lot of their services out. Remember when the Tea Party was in and they wanted to contract, like our driver's license, our contract out. Our mental illness things are contract out to a quasi-government agency, that it's not really a Department of Health, it's a agency that is like private, but yet it's exactly. Yes. And so you have all these layers of administration, because even though they say they're not for profit, someone makes $140,000 a year to do whatever it is. And so I think when they made this decision, there was someone in the county commission who had a buddy who said, hey, give me the contract. And that's kind of how these quasi-contracts occur. Now we're such a big city, and we can take a look at this. And I will say this, I don't know why or why not one of the county commissioners who traditionally would be against it is now for it. It may be that she knows the people who run Medic.
I agree with that.
It may be that she voted to give them the contract.
Exactly.
So it's something as simple as, you know, I'm not saying that person is corrupt. I'm just saying logically, when that is how things used to be done, and now you think they're doing a great job, and you're during the county commission meeting, you're telling people these two people were looking the entire. Well, that's what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to be listening to you the entire time. Why do you compliment people who are doing what they're supposed to do? And that person was trying, and then the other person next to that person was ridiculing people, saying, how dare you create whatever. That's what being elected, when people are upset, they're going to be angry. You know, you put your big boy and girl pants on and you go, I hear what you say, and let us, and I give Mark Jarrell credit for that. He did that. And anybody who's watching this kind of knows what I'm talking about. You have anything to say about the...
So, go ahead and say the names. Now...
I don't want to say the names.
Why?
Because we're trying to be nice.
So Commissioner Pat is against wage garnishments.
She's against.
She's for.
Sorry, she's for wage garnishments. Commissioner Pat is like a mother to me, okay? And we amicably agree to disagree on this issue because she has always treated me like a child and helped me through the political process and welcomed me out here. But for some odd reason, we don't see eye to eye on this. And it did appear, while there was not a specific time that she stated for or against, Elaine Powell stood up for Medic. And what I saw was, wow, she has a personal relationship with that person. But she did not state whether she was for or against Medic. And so those are things as community organizers that we look for when we are doing a large-scale organization like this. So what I would encourage you to do is reach out to everyone and tell them your opinion on this topic.
I wish I had my bless your heart wig on. I would say something, but
so I wanted to be clear on what happened, and I will tell you that Elaine Powell, again, she I helped on her campaign.
Yeah,
I'm
we all
very
support her.
I'm very close to her, so like. In politics, sometimes you have to agree to disagree and still be respectful. But I wanted to make sure that it was clear what for the people that didn't get to go.
I think what I was saying was that you know, the people who get elected at the city and at the county, not necessarily the city because they're used to this kind of when things happen, they created tough skins. The county still runs like they're an old Mayberry County. Everyone up there believes that people don't have a right to get upset. And when you have people that are concerned, because normally there's not a lot of confrontation at the county level. It's all a Democratic dais.
We've seen a few.
Yeah, we've seen, but generally it is. But I do think that it's kind of arrogant for anyone who's in elected office to put in place someone else because they're upset. And I think that is, to me, the height of arrogance. And that always concern, whether it's a Republican, whether it's Democrat, regardless. If you're an elected official and someone stands before you in a public forum that is there so you can listen to people, regardless of who the person is, how upset they are, or what they say, as long as they're not using derogatory words, which you thank them for what they've said, and you to be an elected official and say, don't create villains. You're not my mother. And the fact that they thank you, to me, is a height of arrogance. And someone needs to talk to that person and say, listen, you're not this person's mother. This person has every right to share. If you don't like it, you don't like it. Yeah. If you don't like that, then don't be an elected official. That's what I'm saying.
So, and I, so I'm a candidate for county commission at large. And those of you who knew my parents were like, why do you want to take that responsibility? And I said, because I know I can stand in front of an angry group of people, stay calm, listen to their concerns, and then go back to my network and try and figure out how to fix it.
Yeah,
and that's the mark of a good politician. You have to be prepared to walk into an angry room so that you understand what the people are facing. And when you're talking about life and death duress, you're gonna have an angry population.
Exactly. You should. I mean, I agree. You have anything to add to what we've been talking about, or is that something?
Well, I'm not. I've said this before that at the federal level, I'm very much a libertarian.
Yes.
Right?
It's not Medicare for all.
At the state level, I tend to be a little more small R Republican. At the local level, I'm a little bit more of a Democrat, right? And then in my home, for better or
You're
worse,
socialist.
I'm socialist, right?
Exactly. I remember you saying that.
Yeah. So that was a quote from Nassim Taleb, who was a great, interesting author and writer on statistics. He wrote The Black Swan and Anti-Fragile and a couple other interesting books. And so I have no problem with municipalities and even states putting together healthcare programs and stuff like that. I think it's perfectly.
Because you believe it belongs.
It's perfectly within. Yeah, I mean, for example, education. Education is actually part of the state constitution. As far It should not be part of the national constitution. I believe very strictly in separation of state and education. In the same way, I believe in separation of church and state. Right. So while I would say just to push people's buttons, the first time I met Mark Harris and we were talking about education, Department of Education, we both agreed that we would abolish it, and we kind of fist pumped on it. Okay. So I would abolish the Department of Education.
So let me recap what you said.
But let me say that at the state level, and certainly at the community level, again, I'm just thinking back to my own personal experience of getting a $5,000 ambulance ride, and then my insurance only paying for like $800 of it, and then trying to figure out how I pay the rest, which is difficult, right?
So,
you had to drain your HSA and stuff like that to be able to. But I have no problem with cities thinking of clever ways of working with these services. Having said that, I do believe that people need to pay their bills, and the people that got really hung out to dry by these services. Maybe they need an advocate to negotiate on their behalf.
Exactly.
And maybe you could do a contest. Maybe you could do you could do for people who pay, they can enter into a lottery and they can have the rest of their bill, the rest of have it paid down.
Sure.
So you can figure out a way to build up the coffers to provide this service in the future. So taxpayers are not going to put up with an inefficient, crappy government service that tries to give a Cadillac to everybody.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
So there is wage garnishment in place for medic. It is at the state income tax level.
Yes.
So they are getting. They are able to
they're
wage
getting their way
garnish.
right now.
They're
getting their way.
Yes.
They just want
They
to
just can't
attack
actually
it.
do wages. They
They
can do
want
income
to
taxes.
attack it even further.
Yeah.
And what I want to explain is, when you're building your credit, you allocate so much for your house, you allocate so much for your bills, and then for somebody just to reach in and grab it, I get the income tax thing, because the income tax is a luxury at the end of the year if you have any left. But to take it out of a family,
The income tax is a vicious
well,
thing.
okay.
Which we are against.
But what I'm
Yes.
saying is, here's the argument. How much do they actually think that they can get
Out of a turnip.
out of a turnip?
Yeah.
How much can
How
they
much
actually
blood can you get out of a turnip?
How much
Or
do
a
you think
stone.
for wage garnishment? Like, wage garnishment is only going to piss
Look,
people off.
Look, the Department of Treasury has guns in jails.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're talking about people with guns and people with jails, and they're not afraid to use it. Okay.
Yes.
So that's what
garnishment
you're
is
talking
not
about.
going to pay for medic.
You're not
It's
talking
gonna
about someone
create
going,
enough revenue.
you're 60 days late. You're 60 days late. Could you please? What could you do to pay this bill?
Can you give $1 a
Okay.
week?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. That's not what we're talking about.
So-
We're talking about.
Barbara, you have something
It's
to
a
say.
two-pronged issue for me.
Sure.
Number one, it's not illegal, they can charge whatever they want, but there should be some kind of a means test
Sure.
after the fact.
Yeah.
They just don't charge them the maximum and think they're gonna get paid. I agree with Tara on this. You can't get blood out of a turnip. And because I've been there, but what my role was to be a negotiator and say, here's how much they can painfully afford. How can we resolve this?
Sure.
And it takes a long time, but you need to have somebody. I am disappointed that Medic is going around the system because they don't have the right administration to handle this. This is really their job. And because they just bill ad hoc to people, that's wrong.
This is where I see one of the good things about this is there are some good things that are coming out of this. A, that people are now paying attention to how our ambulance service runs. Because we may all need that one day.
I had no idea.
Yeah, I had no idea how it worked either. Yeah. Now we know that EMS is run at the county level, not the city level.
Right.
Okay? So Mint Hill Fire Department, Huntersville Fire Department, they're all under the county instead of the whatever. Second thing we know is that our current county commission is in need of someone who can come up with solutions instead of just voting on things. Currently, the way our county commission works is the city manager comes up with some policy, whatever, and they all agree or disagree. There's no individual in the county commission, except maybe 3 people, that I could see have the skill set to say, this is what we need to do. This is the problem. A, we need to fix the current debt that's old. That's the first issue. The second issue, we got to prevent this from happening again. How do we realign this bad model? There's no one in the county commission that has raised their hand and said, this is as a policymaker, and that has said, this is what we need to do to fix this. They're all just letting the city manager say what they need to do, us, and saying, okay, we agree, we disagree. So there's no one on that county commission, except maybe Mark Gerald, I think, who has a skill set. I think Susan Rodriguez, I think Hardin as well. I don't think anyone else has the life experience and skill set to actually come up with a solution and say, let's think about this. Everyone else is kind of passing the buck to someone else to fix it.
Well, we don't have a healthcare advocate on the board.
No. Mm-hmm.
That would be me. If I get elected, I'm going to focus on healthcare.
Right.
But we don't have anyone currently. We have a lot of people in the city council that are that type of individual that would say, like Ed Driggs would probably say, hey, listen, this is something I think we need to, let's take a look at this. Let's see if this is feasible. At the county commission level, we've never really had people on the county commission, and we have new members there, and we don't really have anyone that is coming up with a policy, and I don't see anyone coming up. And maybe it's going to be different at this next meeting.
Yeah.
And maybe they're doing it now, but I didn't see anyone going, we need to, county commissioners, we need to get together, we need to fix this problem.
Yeah.
We don't need for the voters to continue to come to us when they're upset or they're not upset. And we don't need to leave the burden on the city manager because obviously she didn't do it. This is why we have this situation.
Well, let's explain what actually she said.
Yeah.
The city manager wrote this into the budget
Yes.
without the Board of County Commissioners being aware of what they were signing.
Yeah.
So that's how all of this got started.
Mhm.
And
now there's a new
Are you
city
talking
manager.
about the contract with the medic, the basic
no,
subcontract?
the wage
Question.
garnishment.
Okay.
The wage garnishment.
Lynn has we have a question, comment, and I think it's exactly correct. She said, suppose there was a massive school shooting in a Title I district in Mecklenburg County, and think about who pays those bills, not fair. So she's exactly correct.
Exactly right.
Exactly right.
And so,
Yeah.
all right, and I want to make sure that I tell everybody my credit score is 755. That is my credit score. Last year, I mastered 10,000 in medical bills to stay alive. To stay alive. An ambulance could save my life in an anaphylactic situation. So here's my situation. Barb, you call 911 on me during anaphylaxis. The 911, the medic comes. By the time the medic gets there, I'm okay, and I still have to pay medic $500 for coming out and checking on me. Okay, so you're not even in control over who calls 911. Like, somebody could just call 911, have an ambulance come check on you. You may be okay, but you're still stuck with a $500 bill. And honestly, you should never substitute your health care.
Yeah.
Always call 911 when you need it.
So this would be an example of good leadership at the county commission board, that someone would have talked to some other people and give a directive to the city manager, because the city manager runs the county, the county services,
Yeah.
and say, we would like for you to go and come up with some other model. Give us 3 models for these ambulance services that we can decide what is best. And she's going to say, because I can tell by her conversation, well, that's going to take some time. Okay, whatever time it takes, come with us in a month.
What do you
Every
need?
month we will come to you and you give us these models. Put the brightest people you have on your team. Model A is keeping it the way it is. The second model is maybe emulating Santa Monica. Third model is maybe emulating Union County. I don't know how this works. I'm just using it as an example.
Uber medic.
Yeah, Uber. No, someone said that. What's going to happen is you're
I
going
want
have
to
people.
address that as well.
Sure.
So my husband had a medication that he needed that was $1,000 a month. We simply did not have that after month of paying for medical bills. So if you look at my little Honda Odyssey, I have Uber and Lyft because I drove Uber and Lyft to pay for my medical bills. During that time, I drove people to the hospital, vomiting in my car, blood gushing out of their mouth, just blah, blah, blah. It was so disgusting. And I thought, wow, what are we doing to our people? I can't drive and take care of your needs.
I gotta drive.
I have to drive and focus.
Can I tell you that I what you said, it just hit me. That's what we've done in my family our entire life. When I was growing up, no one ever called an ambulance because it was the culture was that's a luxury, that's expensive. Anyone who was sick or elderly, you always had someone with them in case they had to take them to the doctor. So we created our own ambulance services with our family, not even knowing that's what you did. Like my grandmother right now, who's 90-something years old, and there's always someone there with her in case she has to get to the doctor.
Yeah.
And so our family have created our own ambulance services, whatever. Not all families have that luxury and that ability, and you're right, it is going to, simply what's going to happen is if you can't afford an ambulance bill and an emergency happens to you, say if you have an overdose, an opioid overdose, or whatever the case may be, and you get sent, and you come back and you're trying to figure out to get your life back together, and then they come after you, you're going to quit your job because you're going to be too embarrassed to get your wages garnished. So you're going to be in even a deeper situation. So this can only hurt people more. So somehow we got to fix it. Whether we need to do a church fundraiser to pay these people's bills off. You know, all these churches do these fundraisers. Yeah, go fund me account or whatever.
Someone could buy up all that distressed debt.
Yes.
A nonprofit could buy up all that distressed debt.
Exactly.
Good job. Yes. The four families that made $1 billion off of the sale of the Panthers could afford $1 million to pay this off.
It'd just be part of their portfolio.
It sure would be, and they would truly be.
I wish I could be that person.
No. So this is really important, and the let's talk about dates. The next date to talk about and for us to get an update is October the 15th, which is next Tuesday. There are people going to be speaking in front of the county commission. Hopefully.
Yeah, you can sign if they haven't blocked it off. Sign up to speak October 15th.
Yes.
If it's full, go to the next one.
Sure.
We have to stay in their sphere of influence.
Do we have anyone who's up? I know that it's hard whenever you're doing something like this because you need people who have the time to find out what's going on.
It's hard when you got a group of Democrats.
Well, but this is not just. But you know the people
It's
that
a bunch of
You
Democrats.
call medic too. You've already said that.
But there are people that this is affecting. There are a lot more poor white people than there are people of color, and we need to establish that first. And the reason I'm saying that is because many poor white people are Trump supporters. They're his base.
Yeah.
They live in Union County.
Yeah.
They live in a lot of other counties.
Yeah.
Because they believe one day they're going to be like Trump. One day they're going to have the American dream. And those immigrants and those Mexicans are taking that dream away from me, which is why we need to kick them out.
Well, they're going to have a hotel in Istanbul.
Exactly. And so I guess my point is there anyone on the county commission? I have tried to look. In the city council, usually Matt Newton, Dr. Harden, Lawana, there's always someone updating Braxton. There's always someone updating you on their Facebook page. We've just had a meeting about this. We're talking about this. We're going to vote on this. We're going to do. I don't see anyone in the county commission updating us on what's going on with this.
No, so I have a great relationship with Mark Durrell, and he sometimes will guide me with what I need to do. But I did ask for an update, and he has not responded yet. But what he said was we just need to continue showing up. We need to continue talking about this. So what you can do is when you go into your groups, we've done a pretty good job educating you today. You can always reach out to me and I can help you. I have a team of 20 organizers on this issue. We will, if I can't help you, I will connect you with one of the organizers.
Can I give you a suggestion?
Yeah.
Assign one of those persons to every county commission to follow the county commissioner on social media to find out what's going on, so that way you know where every single person stands. Because Susan Harden, for example, does a Facebook Live every Sunday night, which I think is wonderful. With usually the cat, you can see the cat with her glass of wine. Sometimes she has people as guest hosts. We want to know what she's saying about it. She's my county commissioner. I want to know what she's saying about it, and then keep tabs, because if they know you're keeping tabs, they're going to start.
So
Saying
you're
stuff.
in this chat room with me.
Yes.
And Joshua is actually
Yes.
on charge of that,
Uh-huh.
and he's
Okay.
been doing that, and he's
Okay.
been reporting to me on that. I'm in a different room with him as well. But Joshua Richardson for City Council at Large, he's a Republican. This is a bipartisan issue.
Yep.
He has been working with the county commissioners individually. As a organizer, we can definitely put that in there. I did mention it the first day that we needed to be working on this. So we will discuss that as a group. What I would encourage you as an audience is to talk to them as well and let them know your opinion. You can do that through letters. You can do that through face-to-face when we're at these meetings. You can go down and speak. I want you at the county commissioners on the 15th. Plus at 5 o'clock, we're going to have a press conference where Dr. Sachs is going to talk, and Janice is going to talk, who's been a victim.
Janice Covington.
She's a bigwig, and she's been a victim of this. Ray McKinnon is going to speak. Sarah Ellis, Reverend Sarah Ellis is going to speak. So we have a bunch of speakers to come down and stand in solidarity with us. Let the press see the people that are tired of being hurt by the system.
Yeah.
Let them know. That's the only way we're going to change this, is if we show up in numbers and let them know that this is not okay.
Well, I thank you for what you're doing. I thank you for what you're saying, and I know you're probably going to get a lot of people who are going to ridicule you because of whatever you found out already. Running for office, people come out of the woodworks to tell everything they.
Nobody has gone against me on this issue.
I
have a lot of support on this
but
issue.
I guess what I'm saying is that, stay strong.
Yeah,
What you're
absolutely.
doing is your heart is in the right place. Please keep doing it, because you're speaking for people who can't speak.
Absolutely.
The people who are too embarrassed or too afraid. There was only a couple of people who are. We know one person who would be impacted by this, whose taxes were taken away, and so forth. And I think it's important that that we have people like you that are speaking for that. And I think, but this also, I think it highlights how our county commission is still being run like Charlotte 30 years ago. And the county commission needs to modernize. We need to have more people on the county commission that have more worldly skill sets. And it doesn't mean they have to be all Democrat. I think we need Republicans, Libertarians, Green Party. We need all diversity on the county commission. And I hope that this highlights that there are some people on the county commission that need to retire. They need to go back into the industry and support people who can make changes to deal with the modern Mecklenburg County, not the Mecklenburg County that was there 30 years ago. And I hope that's what happens in the next election, the 2020 election, that we look at changing the county commission face and makeup like we did city council. And if it means all Democrats, fine. If it means we need to get more Republicans and stuff in there, that's fine too, because I believe, and I hope we agree with this, that you need all different people at the table.
You need a mix.
Yes, you need a mix. So you want to add anything before we talk very briefly about impeachment?
Can I just
Yes,
real quick? So
yes.
one of the things that of the speakers for that night, we had 2 Green Party candidates. We had a Republican.
Yep.
We had independents.
A union person.
A union
Yes,
person.
exactly.
This topic affects everyone.
Yes.
And this is a bipartisan issue.
Yes.
So let's come out in numbers.
Listen, we're going to talk very briefly about impeachment, but before we do, as everyone knows, and you may not know it because it's not as exciting after the election, it never ended, but the regular municipal election is coming up, and early voting starts a week from today. Is it the 15th or 16th? It starts next week.
Starts next week on
Next
Monday.
week. Yeah, probably right. Anyway, early voting starts very soon, next week. So everyone, we do have city council members that are being elected. I know that sometimes the primary determines who it is, but what's really important about our city council is you have 4 people. We have 6 people running, I think 2 Republican. But whoever gets the most votes generally gets voted in as mayor pro tem. So this is what I'm saying. If you did not like the people that voted for the RNC 2020, and there are 3 of them that are, one of them is running for mayor, and 2 of them are running for city council at large, Julie Eisel and Smuggy Mitchell. If you did not like what they do, you can still vote against them by not voting for them in this election and allowing Braxton Winston and Dimple Edgemere to get the majority votes. That is one way that you can vote against Vile Isles without voting against Vile Isles. Why is that important? If we have Braxton or Dimple as a mayor pro tem, that will give us some leverage against the mayor on what she says and what she does, because they are the second person in place. So what I'm saying is that if that is important, if that's an issue that's important to you, don't give up. Just because Lawana didn't make it, just because Hothead didn't make it, just because Stackowitz didn't make it, doesn't mean your vote doesn't still count.
Yeah.
Still go out there and vote for Braxton if you feel, or Dimple, or if you want Julie as the mayor pro tem, vote for Julie. I mean, but this is something that you can do to go out there. My family is voting for Braxton and Dimple Edgemere. We are not voting for Julie Eisel, and we're not voting for Smudgy. We're not voting for both of them who voted for the RNC, for also many other reasons as well. Now, if you decide that you want to vote for the other people, vote for them. But at least go vote. Don't let the fact that your candidate is not on the ballot not vote. Vote for Ed Driggs. Driggs is my representative. If you want him to be your district person, vote for him. He doesn't have any running against him. If you don't vote for him, because it does mean a lot, even if you're running alone, to see that the same people that voted for one person didn't vote for you. It means they didn't like what you're doing. A really important election in District 7. Gina is running against Tariq.
6.
6, that's right, different 6. Very, very important election. We're obviously, my family is supporting Gina. I think that she has a lot more worldlier skill sets. I know you probably support Tariq. I don't know, I mean, you have to say that, but I think it's going to be a very, very good election. I do believe that Gina would be better reflective of our district and of people's skill set. And what I have seen from Tariq over the last 2 years is nothing like the Tariq I saw run for office. He said what he needed to do just to get elected, and then once he got elected, he became crazy. And what I've seen, and just the arrogance, shows up in golf shorts and flip-flops and polo shirts, like he came off the golf course to events, shows up and just never says hi to anybody. I just think we need better from a city council person than someone like that. But he doesn't represent me, but he represents everyone. You want to add anything to that?
I will add that I fully endorse Dimple, and as a progressive, usually, I can't even think of a single time where she voted in a disagreement with me.
Yeah.
So she has the same value set. She's not afraid to use the words that she needs to. I hope that she becomes the new person.
Yeah. I'm channeling my Lawana and Hothead votes to Braxton and Dimple.
So I really support Dimple. She's a hard worker.
Yeah. Because Lawana was our only LGBT person of color on our dice, which represents a marginalized community that we've never had.
Sure.
We had Al Alston for a while, who now works for the governor. Now we do not have a LGBT person, and specifically an LGBT person of color, on our dais, which to me is a huge someone at the table that really was important, whether you agreed with her or not.
Yeah.
It was a person, a voice at the table that generally people don't have at the table. Also, we have school board elections as well. Very, very important. People don't always pay attention to the school board, but they do a lot in this very segregated city. We have a lot of things on the table for our neighborhood here in South Charlotte and Old Providence. The big issue is whether they're going to build a high school up the street at Old Providence Elementary School, which I'm against because there's not enough acreage. There's only 20 acres, and traditionally you need 50 acres or more to build a decent, unless it goes really high. Exactly. So there's several people that my family is really considering. Stephanie Sneed, who I love. I've watched her for the last couple of years. Classy lady, skill set. Stephanie Sneed, I went in there. Of course, Jennifer De La Hora as well is another person. I love Dashu as well, who I supported last time, and I think she's a very level-headed person. But there's also the school teacher gentleman who is
Monty.
The tall gentleman, a Hispanic guy. He's got a.
It starts with a P.
Yes, I like him. Yes,
Pineda.
he was at our candidate forum.
He's a very smart guy.
There's some really, really good people, but I do think that these are some good people to consider. We won't know until the very end until we find, because I think only the top 3 make it. Is that correct? But Stephanie and Jennifer, I really like a lot.
So Elise Dashu, for those of you who don't know my history, I documented the government. That's how I met Cano.
Yes.
And I wanted to see how active the people in government were listening, because your job as a government official is to go to the community leaders and learn the content that you need to know. And so I documented them as they came. What I found is that Elise Dashu was always there. She could keep up with me. Her visibility and learning the content, she is. She's very active.
She's very engaged.
She's very engaged. She's not in the community that you're in because she's not a Republican, and that's usually considered Republican territory. Now, what I will tell you is that, so we're talking about the Ed Driggs meeting. Ed Driggs meeting consists of a third independents, like Barb, a third Republicans, like Ed, and a third Democrats. And he always welcomes Jeff.
The
is
others.
always
The
there.
others.
The other party.
So everybody is welcome there, but
Tara,
people seem to think that
Tara,
it's a Republican event.
Yeah, Tara, let's be fair. It used to be all Republican, but now that you've been going, I think you guys have kind of inadvertently changed it to more bipartisan, and I appreciate the fact.
Yes.
Just seeing your face has probably changed the dynamics in the last year.
I wasn't there last week.
Yeah,
I
and
said,
so
sorry,
that's actually good. That's something so simple as y'all attending. Has changed and could change even Ed Driggs on how he looks at policy. When he sees faces that are not the same, you start to look at things differently. I think we have to give credit because to Commissioner Cotham, regardless of what happens in this on this specific issue, we have to give Commissioner Cotham credit for being far beyond what any elected official has ever been in this region that I'm aware of. She is everywhere.
She is everywhere.
She is everywhere. She doesn't care if you're Republican, Democrat. She truly.
She's gonna respect you.
Mark Jarrell is like that. I think Rodriguez and Hardin, I hope, are molding to be like that. And I appreciate the fact. Yes, ma'am.
At a recent Friday morning Ed Driggs coffee meeting, Ed and Pat, and I honestly don't remember what the topic was, but they are having open dialogue about the county and the city working closely together, which is not happening now. And on several different topics, they sat there in that meeting and talked about options and things. And
well,
they're both for this.
There is so much that we can do together, and one of those things that we can do together is the Be Smart program. Last night was Moms Demand Action. We had Stoney Rushing on our show 2 weeks ago, and if I think I'm correct. Remember, Stoney said that there's nothing on there he doesn't disagree with.
We're all for common sense in all things.
Yes. We need to read our constitutional quote of the week. We didn't go over this. Do you want to pick one out, Jeff?
Oh, wow, pick one out.
To put you on the spot, I want to say that this is the quietest we've ever had Jeff on a show.
Okay. It's actually time. We're
we're over.
finished.
Yeah. We started just about 6 minutes late.
This is a good. Thank you for letting me.
Well,
This
Let's
is
read
therapeutic.
14.
It's the reason that
14.
Yeah. Go ahead, Jeff.
14's too long. That's why I said
4,
14.
1, 2.
The 21st Amendment.
All right, 21st.
Yeah, because that's the one that.
Page 20.
That's a good one.
Okay.
Because it repeals one of the other ones.
Oh, okay.
Section 1 of Amendment 21. The 18th article of the Amendment to the Constitution of the United States is hereby repealed. Yay! Section 2. Transportation of importation into any state, territory, or possession of the United States for delivery or use therein of intoxicating liquors in violation of the laws thereof is hereby prohibited. This article shall be inoperative unless it has been ratified as an amendment to the Constitution by conventions in the several states as provided by the Constitution within 7 years of the date of the submission hereof to the states by the Congress. So,
Okay.
So that repealed
So
a bad amendment.
So speaking of the Constitution, we've gone over just a little bit. The Constitution, right now we're in the impeachment drama. I call it Trump
Melodrama.
I call it the Trump novella. It's like a telenovela, except it's all about the Trump novella. So now Trump has written a letter to the Democrats saying that he will not participate. He will not let anyone participate in the impeachment process unless they vote to start the impeachment process, which is, we talked about it very briefly.
Yeah.
Which, what does that do? What that does is that gives the minority, the Republicans, also the same authority to subpoena people. That was done during the Nixon administration. I believe they should do that. I think that they should vote. But it does put Republicans like our current Congressperson, Dan Bishop, in an awkward situation, because if you vote for it, you're saying, I vote for the impeachment process to start. If you don't vote for it, you say, I don't want Trump to have a fair hearing. So it almost backfires and puts the Republicans in a situation. I believe it has to be fair, but I'll add one thing that everyone's going to hate me about. I truly believe that we need to investigate Joe Biden and his son as well. Doesn't mean it has to go anywhere, but I think the only reason you can attack Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton is because there are people who believe they profited from being elected. Whether they did or not, who knows? They all do. All we know is that when you're a lifelong elected official and you're a multimillionaire and your family has suddenly become millionaires, there is profit. We talked about this before. It's just the way it is. So I do think that we have to hold, just as we're trying to hold Trump accountable for making money for being president, we have to hold Joe Biden accountable and his family members as well. If anything comes from it, so I think what Joe Biden, I think he's losing this opportunity. He needs to say, investigate me. Look at my son. I'm willing to do that. That would take the sting off of Republicans who are saying, what about Biden? What about Biden? And that's the only thing they have on Biden. So he needs to just come out and say, investigate me. Here's my taxes. Do what you need to do. Because the longer he doesn't do it, the more it builds those Trump conspiracy people saying, see, he really has something to hide. So I think that is something that we need to do. The Biden people don't want to do it because they're afraid it will take hits at the polls and Bernie and Elizabeth will start winning in the polls. They're all worried about the polls because their whole campaign is Biden is electable, Biden is electable, and it's all based on poll numbers. So if his poll numbers start to come down, their whole strategy goes out the window. And so, which wouldn't upset me if Biden doesn't get the nomination. All right, so last but not least, this is on the ballot. I don't know how, we need to probably talk about this before the election starts. Well, we don't have any time because we're way over today.
Sure.
There is a proposition on the ballot for the county to raise our taxes 25 cents to vote for green and vibrant Mecklenburg. $17 million, we're trying to raise a quarter cent. So just briefly, do you support this, yes or no? And then we can talk about it next show.
I haven't read enough about it.
Okay, do you support this, yes or no?
I'm at this point neutral.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to see more community support it. Right now I see the arts supporting it, but I want to hear all the constituents support it.
Do you support this, yes or no?
No.
Okay. And so we probably need to next Wednesday talk about this, because the reason I don't support this is because it is all of the collateral that's coming out is it's being built as for parks, greenway, parks, which the majority of people in Mecklenburg County support. We don't have enough. We're ranked 50 out of 50 on green space. But 40-something% of the actual taxes goes to the arts, only 37% to the parks, and then 12% or whatever to education. They're not putting arts on there because it's not popular.
Right.
If you're going to pass something, be truthful to people and tell us where it's going to be.
So I actually did a Facebook thing, and Susan Harding sent me the link on how the money is going to be distributed.
And why are they sending this out?
Well, the money can change. Like, there's no way. That's just advertising to let you know to vote for it.
Yes,
they want you to vote for it.
And they don't want to tell you it's the arts because they know that it will fail if it's just the arts.
It says
I know.
parks, arts, and education.
But it's persuasive communication.
Yes.
It's
Sure.
like what
Arts.
it's like what Dan Bishop sent out about poor Chad.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
true. That's
you
true.
know, it's just it's crap that you get in the mail, and it's not really representative of the underlying truth but it's supposed to be persuasive.
And the reason that they don't want to talk about the arts, and they're talking about this first, they're misleading people. We have no more room to build new parks.
No.
We could raise $1 billion. We can't build new parks. So the money is not going to build new parks. It's going to update the current parks. They're giving the impression to people, if you vote for this, we're going to build new parks. We can't build new parks. There's no room. And so it's misleading. But if you tell people, if you vote for this, we're going to have more opera, more arts, people will vote against it because they don't go to opera and arts. They see that it's just going to benefit the Myers Park people. And so they're trying to sell this on the need for people for parks when we know we can't build new parks. So to me, it's misleading. If you want it to pass it clean, pass one for arts, pass one for greenways, pass one for education. Don't mix it in together where you're misleading people.
I was gonna say, if you want something like
Yeah.
this is just my critique of this. If you want something to pass, move that education right in front.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know
Yeah.
anybody who
Yeah.
doesn't want to strengthen our education system, because even if you don't
Yeah.
have kids,
Yeah.
it still attracts people to the city if we have strong schools.
But don't you think, Tara, and when you get on the Board of Elections, Board of County Commission, this is how they should word it. They should have 3 things on there. 10 cents for the arts, 10 cents for the parks, and 10 cents for the education.
5
and
cents for education.
or however they want to
Sure.
do it, and let people specifically vote on what they want their money to go to. But you're right, because that quarter, we don't know how it can be. It can be divided anyway. They could decide tomorrow to put all of it to the arts.
So they absolutely can.
Yeah. And so that's the reason I'm against it.
Yeah.
No.
They can allocate this. They can say this is what it's for, and then they can allocate it to something else later.
All right, so we are finished, and I want to thank everyone for joining us. Thank you for being the
roof.
The what?
The roof.
the Ruth,
You're using the roof.
and thank you for not falling asleep today. So sometimes
Still early.
He's got
sometimes-
your coffee.
He does. He does. Thank you so much. Enjoy the fall. Early voting starts next week. Don't forget to please vote, regardless of who your candidate is. Go vote. We need to show people that we're active and engaged.
Stay home.
And also, there's a Democratic debate on, I believe, LGBT that's on the 15th. That's the night of the county commission. So what Lynn had
You're
said
going to be
is
at the county commissioners.
yes,
and
I'll
you
be at
can-
the county
you
commission,
can
but there'll be a lot of people.
film
Yeah, there'll
the
be a lot
debate.
of people that will be in solidarity that will be watching as well on Facebook. Lynn has shared that as well. I'll say, so as we traditionally do, tell us where you're going to be as I go be director or producer. Alexa, play Pandora.
Once again, I'm going to be
Mariachi
spending maybe
Radio
2 days
Pandora.
in Winston-Salem and then working on a little bit on the computer system for you.
Oh, yay. Thank you. Yes, she is my campaign director, my finance director for my campaign. I will be working towards organizing for against wage garnishment. So October 15th, I will be at the county commissioners, and I want to see you there.
I will read it.
I will be finally working in my yard now that the heat has come down a little
Yeah.
bit.
Your neighbors called.
Yeah, I see they're putting messages here now. Jeff, clean up that crap in your yard. Yeah, I'll get to it, I swear.
And I don't know where I'll be. I guess that's it.
October 15th, you'll be
Oh,
with me.
October 15th, we will be at the county commission fighting to stop this garnished wages. Hopefully we'll get a county commissioner who watches this show that will give us some solutions to this, because we shouldn't have to come up with solutions. That's why we elect them.
Have a lottery.
The solution is the county commissioners pays the money.
Yeah. Okay.
You mean
All right.
you mean taxpayers?
Yes.
Taxpayers,
Yeah, taxpayers pay for it.
which you probably against.
That's true.
Yep. Interesting show. All right, everybody wave. Bye, Ruth.
Bye.